the local government to brief us. With us, we have Party Secretary of Hainan Province, Mr. Shen Xiaoming, Hainan Provincial Governor, Mr. Feng Fei, Deputy Chairman of NDRC, Mr. Cong Liang, Vice Minister of Finance, Madam Zhou Jiayi, Vice Minister of Commerce and also the Deputy Chief Representative of International Trade Negotiation, Mr. Wang Shouwen, Deputy Head of the General Administration of Customs, Mr. Zhang Jiwen, Deputy Director General of State Administration of Foreign Exchange, Wang Chunying. Now let's first of all give the floor to Deputy Chairman of NDRC, Mr. Cong Liang. Ladies and gentlemen, dear media friends, good morning. On April the 13th, 2018, General Secretary Xi Jinping was present on the 30th anniversary of Hainan Province and declared the central government's decision to support reform and opening up in Hainan. In June 2020, the Free Trade Port Development General Plan was published. We followed the instructions of General Secretary Xi Jinping as to deepen the reform in Hainan and the development of free trade port in Hainan. And we learned that the central government decides to establish the free trade port because of its long-lasting influence and significance. We would love to connect capital, technology, management, and data from all around the world. And with those fine quality resources, we would love to set an example of high quality growth in China. With higher level of opening up, we would love to deepen reform. And we would love to facilitate the market system with a new model. We would love to explore an influential and competitive system for dissemination nationwide. We would also love to offer a platform for the international trade rule establishment. In the past 3 years, we have established an office to deepen the reform and opening up in Hainan, actively implementing the policies and regulations. Trade, investment, facilitation will prioritize different production elements are circulating freely. We are having systematic innovation with a series of policies in place. So the free trade port development is developing smoothly. We have published over 110 documents for that regard, and the framework of free trade port system is taking shape. In general, those policies and systems could be summarized as follows. Firstly, they are freer and more facilitated and convenient trade and investment policies. For goods and commodities trade system, we have published the lists. We have taken the lead in opening in the first line, so trade would be facilitated. And we also have published the negative listing for foreign invested behaviors, and the negative list has been narrowed down to 27 items, and investment would have a lower threshold. And in 2020, we also introduced an opinion on supporting modern tertiary industry and tourism. In total, there were 17 such documents, so that development will enjoy a larger room. Thirdly, we support the financial support with the certain documents in place. We would love the free trade port development to enjoy a favorable financial support. We would also love to develop service trade and the facilitation of the trade settlement. And we would also love to offer $5 billion for outward investment. And in Hainan Province, we would also have a pilot project to reform the foreign investors listing. And we also support some enterprises to have income tax reform with a reduction of 15%. And we have also exempted the taxation for the foreign investors. And in addition, we approve 16 other deputy-free stores to be established here. We have introduced the tax rebate for the shipment And we would also offer some bonded taxation policies. For example, the exhibited products imported from overseas will have zero taxation. We would love to establish a more efficient, safer, and convenient transportation hub in Hainan with more efficient registration system. We would love also to innovate the management system of those yacht and ship in Hainan Province. We would also open the channels to the passenger boats and elevate Hainan Port to be an international port. We also have some elements supportive policies. We expanded the channels for foreign investors with different pilot projects in terms of talents. We have a categorization of the talents, 2020 version, with the occupational management method. So we would encourage the foreigners to participate in some occupational qualification tests with a total number of 219 items in those policies. We also had a pilot project of international cooperation. In the 9 pilot places, we had a special channel for that purpose. We are more flexible in guaranteeing the demand. And sixthly, we are improving the implementation. According to the 13th MPC, the Hainan Free Trade Port draft was revised and public opinion was solicited. 7 administrative laws were implemented. Sanya Qiongzhou Gulf and some key parks have their respective regulations. We have also streamlined the management to curb smuggling and other 36 different illegal behaviors. The free trade port development in Hainan has enjoyed a more favorable environment. Since the policies and institutional designs are gradually taking shape, the environment is improving, market players are starting to settle down here, and Hainan will certainly become a hotbed of investment and businesses. Thank you, Mr. Cong. Next, let's give the floor to Mr. Shen Xiaoming. Ladies and gentlemen, dear media friends, first of all, I would love to give my heartfelt thanks to people from all circles of lives to pay your attention and give support to Hainan. On April the 13th, 2018, President Xi Jinping participated in the 30th anniversary of the establishment of Hainan Autonomous Region, and he delivered a remark on that occasion, giving his best wishes to the deepened reform and opening up of Hainan Province in this new era. He said that the central government will support steadfastly Hainan Province to explore a free trade port development path with Chinese characteristics. On June 1st, 2020, the Free Trade Port of Hainan Province had its master plan being unveiled to the public. Over the past 3 years, under the strong leadership of CPC, Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping as the core, and the support of different central governments and peer provinces, we have been strictly implementing the instructions of President Xi Jinping concerning Hainan development. Hainan's overall reform is in its full swing, with 4 major changes. First, throughout the whole province, there is a rising enthusiasm of engaging in businesses. We are championing the spirit to test the waters and be a pioneer. There will be one theme for 1 year, and for that one theme, we conquer difficulties together. To speed up the development of the free trade port in Hainan Province, we had conducted a series of activities to make contributions. We also mobilized the cages to play their due role in order to open a new chapter for the call of a free trade port development. Secondly, we have improved the quality of economy. We have called upon the external forces to support our economic transformation. Our industrial structure has been improved with the quality elevated to a higher level. We take a tough decision to be more independent. The industrial investment has taken a larger proportion from less than 40% to over 60%. As to changing the drivers of the economy, we would divert the economic reliance from real estate and infrastructure investment to consumption and investment. As to the orientation to the outside, we encourage the different market players to participate in our development. With our efforts, we have regulated the real estate market and underwent the hit of the epidemic, and our GDP and taxation revenue maintained a steady growth. The main parameters of economy are outperforming the nation average. Last year, the newly established enterprises took a larger foreign investment and introduced more talents than previous years. The number almost doubled. Thirdly, the different market players are echoing the call actively. We have zero imported goods tariff list and market access relief lists. We have implemented those lists to the details in the 3 years. In the 3 years' time, we have added another 763,000 new market players. That's almost the sum of the total in the last 3 years. And as to the foreign investment, that was $5.2 billion, almost over half of the sum of the previous 3 years. And as to the state-owned enterprises and their subsidiaries in Hainan, their revenues almost increased by 20 times more. Particularly the newly established enterprises, their revenues increased by over 113%. Fourthly, we have gradually formed a new policy system to attract talents. We have introduced 285 excellent cages to be stationed in Hainan, and we have dispatched 400 cages in 4 batches to the other central government departments and other provinces for learning. According to President Xi Jinping, we need to call upon the forces from the whole nation. So in the 3 years' time, we have introduced 230,000 talents. That's an increase of 675%. And after the introduction of the master plan in less than 1 year time, which means since June last year until now, we have attracted almost half of that total. We also established a special window for those talents, and we published the occupational management method for those overseas foreigners, and we have implemented the preferential treatment policies of taxation for those talents and enterprises. The remuneration level will be the key criteria for the talents development, and the environment of talents development has been improved. 6. Ecology improvement. Hainan's ecology isn't just a treasure of Hainan locals, but also a treasure for the whole nation. We took solid steps to establish a national ecological park and the tropical forest pilot project, and those projects have been approved by the nation. The NEV ownership take up around 4.2% of the total. That's 1.3 times more than the nation's average. And until the end of last year, the live garbage has never been landfilled. PM 2.5 concentration averages at 13 milligrams per cubic meters. For rivers, lakes, and the near ocean areas, the water ecology has been continuously improved, ranking among the top in China. As to the business environment, it's also being improved. Business environment is one pillar policy for the free trade port development. We have published 12 batches of cases with 116 examples to strengthen the role of Hainan as a window to openness. For now, we have reviewed those enterprises more smoothly and conveniently. And 7, we have basically established a modern industrial landscape. We are speeding up the development of modern services, the high-tech and the tropical agriculture and tourism. So those are the 3+1 modern industry structure. As to tourism and modern services, we are taking full advantage of the offshore shopping and procurement policies, particularly those high-end products like healthcare and education. We would love to encourage back the consumption. In this year, we are going to hold the first China Hainan International Consumption Goods Expo. We would cover aviation, deep sea, and the overland industries development. We have made practical progress in terms of the 奋斗者 project, and Tianwen number 1, Chang'e number 5 have also been launched in Wenchang launching sites. And as to the number of high-tech companies in the past 3 years, it increased by 273%. The revenues of internet-based enterprises, it increased by 192%. The contribution of the high-tech enterprises to the GDP is increasing. As to the development of the tropical and featured agriculture products, we are planting the banana and the coconut. We are also introducing the new varieties of tropical products from around the world. We are also promoting the traditional fishery industry to move to the deeper sea area and the leisure fishing industry. Agriculture and fishing industry are developing hand by hand. And 8th, risk aversion and control. We are committed to openness on the basis of control, and we are establishing an informatized platform for the people flow and the circulation of products. We have 24/7 monitoring so that in the near sea, the shoreline, and the other areas, we have full monitoring. And we also published the anti-smuggling regulation in Hainan Province to crack down upon the different illegal behaviors. For example, buying on behalf of the consumers from the Chinese mainland. And as to poverty alleviation, 5 poor countries have gotten rid of poverty. 600 poverty-stricken villages have also been helped. We have helped 650,000 poor people to live a better life. We are also meeting the demand of the talents for the housing. And as to the commodity prices, we are introducing the fine resources to establish 102 schools, and we also have introduced 49 international level hospitals. We have to guarantee that those locals would enjoy good education and do not have to commute a long way to the city areas for hospitalization. And for the free trade port, this policy is already in full swing. We are going all out in terms of legislation of free trade port so as to offer more autonomy to Hainan Province in terms of reform. For this moment, the free trade port law has completed the first round of review of the Standing Committee of the NPC, and it is now open to the public to solicit public opinions. 3 years ago, General Secretary Xi Jinping delivered a keynote remark on April the 13th, 2018, mentioning that we welcome international investors to invest and do businesses in Hainan and actively participate in the development of free trade port in Hainan and hitchhike on the dividend of China's reform and opening up. In the past 2 years, with practices, Hainan proves that the free trade port is an opportunity for the whole world and for any individual. We welcome you all. Thank you. Thank you, Party Secretary Shen. And now the floor is open to questions and answers. And please identify yourself. From the CMG, President Xi Jinping repeatedly mentioned that the green is gold. How will Hainan protect its unique environment so that the environment will not be sacrificed for the economy goals? When President Xi Jinping investigated in Hainan Province, he saw the clear sky and blue ocean. Those are the biggest strengths of Hainan. Those can never be bought with money or be borrowed from elsewhere. We believe that the blue skies and the clear waters are a treasure of Hainan and the whole nation. So, protecting the unique environment and ecology in Hainan Province is a necessity for us, and we bear it in our mind. The National Ecological Civilization Demonstration Zone is going to be the starting point for our environmental protection. The ecology and environment will never be sacrificed for economic purposes. And in this process, we have two principles to observe. First, work on 3 fields of environment. That is the ecology environment, the business environment, and the policy environment, so that those 3 will support the free trade port development together. And the second principle is, in the process of developing the free trade port, all the other problems shall give way to ecology. That is to say, for all of those difficulties and problems we may encounter in the process of development once in conflict to ecological environment, ecology will be prioritized. To put it another way, we are never going to develop the economy at the expense of ecology. So, under the guidance of the 2 principles, we will work on the following 3 fronts. First, profits will be aimed at ranking among the top in the world in terms of ecology by 2035. Second, governance The central government has an ecology and marine environment investigation team. So based on their suggestions, as long as those problems remain unresolved, we are never going to let go. Third, we will be led by the flagship projects. With President Xi Jinping's remarks, the provincial people's government will be led by those instructions. And we have already put in place some flagship projects. For example, within the area of 4,400 square kilometers, a certain area will be set aside as the tropical forest development zone. We would love to protect the tropical forest to be a national example. We also have reformed our energy development plan. We strive to increase the proportion of installed capacity of the new energy to 85%. That's the world-class level. Third, we officially announced to the whole world that by 2030, Hainan will not sell the traditional fossil fuel vehicles. That is our decision to develop the AEVs. For this moment, this policy is being executed throughout the whole province. In addition, we are also encouraging the development of the prefabricated houses. The number of those houses doubled for 2 years in a row. We have to say that Hainan has a very good environment. Every friend who comes to Hainan feels the same way. But as a local, we are deeply aware that the good ecological environment doesn't mean we are doing a fairly good job in protection. So we still have to keep up the good work. With our efforts, we aim to develop the blue skies and green mountains and clear waters together with the free trade port. Thank you. My question is to Cong Liang from the China Reform newspaper. You have introduced the policy system of Hainan Free Trade Port. My question is, NDRC is one of the leading organs of that policy. What work have you done? Could you give us more details? Thank you for your question. Just now, I briefed you about the macro policies and systems of the free trade port in Hainan Province. That is the result of different departments and Hainan Province as a whole. Since 2020, NDRC is also implementing the instructions of General Secretary Xi Jinping. We are executing the State Council's arrangement as well. We innovated the methods of our work to honor our commitments. We work around the clock to come up with new policies. We work together with Hainan Province to build a framework of the free trade port development. For this moment, the NDRC's certain work could be summarized as the following four. First of all, we have unveiled 3 dedicated policies for that purpose. And also, we also have gathered a series of projects for the free trade port. For example, the negative listing of foreign investment in free trade port, to facilitate the investment in the free trade port, and to establish a very competitive policy and system, and to build Hainan Free Trade Port to be a flagship free trade port in China. In December 2020, the NDRC, with the Ministry of Commerce, published a document about a special negative listing of foreign investment 2020 version. Compared to the previous 30 items, this free trade port negative listing is narrowed down to 27 items. And in the contents, we have a larger scope of openings. We support the free trade port to take the lead in openings. In the next step, according to the requirement, we will continue to narrow down the list of foreign investment so as to facilitate investment. And secondly, we have also introduced a list of encouraged industries to direct the development of the businesses and investment in free trade port. In 2020, Ministry of Finance and the State Administration of Taxation and NDRC published a listing of the industrial structure, and with the current listing added by the local newly added listing, we will encourage certain industries at the number of 14. In total, there are 143 industries. So we had a larger coverage of those encouraged industries with a prioritized direction at tourism and modern service industries. In the next step, considering the requirement of the free trade port, we will also continuously revise the list of encouraged industries. The third one is about market access. To have the highest level of openings in Hainan Free Trade Port and to explore a modern market system with flexibility and with a modern governance system. Days ago, the several central departments published a measure on Hainan Free Trade Port to be centered on healthcare, education, and so on. Those industries will be prioritized so as to effectively promote the concentration of the fine elements and to have a new competitive edge in Hainan Province with its own local features. And lastly, about the new projects, we have studied and introduced a new action plan about the projects. We have also promulgated a document about deepening reform with the central government budget support. We will earmark 10 billion RMB yuan to support the hardware and software infrastructure development in Hainan Province and to support the Smart Hainan project development. As to the plan of transportation and new infrastructure, energy, and the other major technological projects, they will be integrated together to the project of REITs so as to revitalize the idle assets and find new channels of investment. Thank you. Thank you. From Hong Kong, as we know, since January the 1st of 2020, since the master plan was published about the free trade port, different departments also have introduced certain favorable policies to attract talents to Hainan. So what is the status quo of talents, and what will be the considerations in the future about scaling up the current team of talents? According to President Xi Jinping, deepening reform and opening up in Hainan Province is a national strategy. We must mobilize resources from the whole nation for that purpose. And in our practical work, we realize that deepening reform in Hainan and the free trade port policy will both rely on the talents. Since April the 13th, 2018, central and local departments go all out to support Hainan to gather resources elsewhere. Hainan also has unveiled a series of talent support and attraction policies. For this moment, we have initially developed a scientific and efficient talent attraction system. In my remarks just now, I mentioned that in the past 3 years, Hainan has already attracted 233,000 talents. That's a year-on-year increase of 275%. One more pleasant phenomena is, among that total number, over half of those talents were coming to us in less than 1 year since the master plan was published. So that means we are speeding up in attracting talents. As to our plans, we will continue to scale up the team of talents in Hainan Province. And I keep telling my colleagues in Hainan that while introducing talents is important, cultivating those talents is all the more important. We need monks not only from elsewhere, but also those growing up locally. I've been thinking that the master plan ranges from 2020 to 2050. So we, as the first generation of executors of that plan, hold the first baton. But where are those people who are going to take the last baton? Those people are still in the kindergarten. So, to do a good education in Hainan Province will be helpful to scaling up the team of talents. It's a strategic policy. Thank you. Next question. Thank you from CMG. In the master plan, it mentions that before 2025, we will orderly encourage the first group of achievements with the Ministry of Finance introducing some policies. So what will these policies do to the early achievements? Thank you for your question. As to the taxation and financial targets, they are going to be executed according to different stages. There will be zero tariff and tax reduction. Firstly, there will be zero tariff and low taxation ratio. In details, for partial imported goods, there will be zero tariff. And for those qualified enterprises and individuals, there will be low income taxation ratio. That's the first step. And meanwhile, for the certain ships, we will have some preferential treatment in terms of VAT. There are 12 such taxation policies in that regard. For the 12 financial and taxation policies, as long as one item is going mature, we will execute it independently. 9 of those 12 policies are already in place. Firstly, the duty-free goods purchasing in Hainan Province and the raw materials zero tariff. And third, the transportation vehicles zero tariff. And the fourth one is the self-used production equipment tariff policy. And fifth, the preferential taxation for the enterprises. Sixth, for the urgently needed talents, there will be preferential treatment in their income taxation. And seventh, the international ships VAT preferential treatment. Eighth, the tax rebate policy. And 9, the bonded and the tax rebate policy. Those 9 policies will be the early results and achievements of the Free Trade Port, and they will play their role in 4 areas. Firstly, supporting the development of an international consumption hub in Hainan, the offshore duty-free consumption, and the quota of such consumption has been elevated to 100,000 per year, and the variety of duty-free products have been more enriched to cover 45 of those products. And such a canceling of duty-free product consumption is very helpful. Every year, within the scope of 100,000 RMB yuan, you could choose freely to buy a watch priced at 100,000, or you could choose to buy more varieties of products with the total price of 100,000. For example, cell phone, alcohol, and makeups. There will be some quota cap in terms of the number you buy. In the airports, stations, or the ports, we have added 2 more product delivery methods. One is mail, the other is for the convenience of the locals. When the locals have to go out to do their businesses, they can also choose to take those duty-free products when they return home. And as to mail delivery, it's mainly targeting at the tourists. They could leave behind their addresses in the duty-free store, and then the store owners will send it to the homes of those tourists. And 6 additional duty-free stores are established. Added by the available 4 stores, we established 3 duty-free stores in Haikou and Sanya respectively. So now the total number of duty-free stores amount to 10. Second, supporting the upgrading of industrial structure. For the raw materials, transportation vehicles, and yacht, and self-used production equipment, those will enjoy 0 tariff. And for the enterprise income tax, there will be preferential treatment as well. For the 0 tariff of those production tools, there will be a positive listing management method. In the process of service trade, those raw materials consumed within the list will have 0 tariff and 0 consumption tax. For the transportation vehicles, we also have a positive listing management. For the purpose of tourism and transportation, the boats, aircrafts, and automobiles, there will be 0 tariff and VAT and consumption taxation. For the self-used production tools, there is 0 tariff, and it is up to negative listing management, except the exception as has been ruled by the laws and regulations, and the equipment in the negative listing. All the other equipment will be exempted from tariff and VAT and consumption tax. For the corporate income tax preferential treatment, it's subject to those settling down in Hainan Province with actual production and operation happening in this island. And we will acquire 15% of income taxation. And for the high-tech tourism service industry, the enterprises will be exempted from income tax. The capital expenditure of those qualified enterprises could be deducted once and for all, or the depreciation may be accelerated. As our reporter has mentioned, Hainan is supporting the talents attraction, so there will be some financial and taxation support. They are the individual income taxation policy for those talents working in Hainan Province as long as they urgently needed. Their individual income taxation, once above the 15% threshold, it will be exempted. and we establish a new channel of navigation with 3 policy support. First, for the ships and boats established within the shores once registered in Yangpu Port and engaged in international transportation and navigation, the shipbuilders, when selling the boats to the buyers, will have a VAT rebate policy, which means those boats will be regarded as exported goods. And second, if you take Yangpu Port as a transitioning port, we allow those enterprises to apply for bonded taxation in Yangpu Port. And you can also refill in Yangpu Port with export rebate support. Third, if you apply for the customs from the starting point and then transition through the waterways and finally reach Yangpu Port in Hainan Province, the containers will enjoy a rebate support. My question is to Mr. Shen Xiaoming about the cooperation of Hainan's Free Trade Port development with Russia. What are those policies concerning attracting foreign investors? And in what areas can you cooperate with Russia? For Russia to cooperate with Hainan provinces and enterprises, what will be the key points? The question will be referred to the governor. Thank you for your concern of Hainan Free Trade Port. In the past 3 years, we had an explosive growth of foreign investment. That's one of the highlights of our free trade port. It is fair to say Hainan has become a new hotbed of international investment. I would love to take your question from 3 facts. 1, the actual usage of foreign investment has doubled for 3 years in a row, with the total sum exceeding the total of 30 years according to our plan. Second, we have a rising number of foreign investors. Last year, we set up over 1,000 foreign invested enterprises. The actual number was 1,005. That's almost 3 times of the number in 2019. And you have to consider the epidemic. So, to have such a great achievement in 2020, it's a really hard one. Third, about the origins of those foreign investment. The number of the origins also doubled. There are about over 30 nations and regions with their investors coming to Hainan, including Russia. So why is Hainan becoming a new hotbed of investment? Personally, I think there are 2 reasons to show the preferential policies in Hainan. The first one is the negative listing of foreign investment in Hainan Province. The national negative listing has 33 items, but for the free trade area, the negative listing includes 30 items. But as you have heard, in Hainan's Free Trade Port negative listing, there are only 27 items. The second reason is the lowest burden of taxation on the enterprises. Just now, Minister Zhou gave you a lot of details of taxation policies. And usually for foreign investors, they are mostly interested in certain items like the corporate income tax. Hainan encourages the foreign investors to enjoy an income taxation of 15%. For the high caliber talents, they also enjoy 15% of individual income taxation. That's a unique policy in the whole nation. Our Russian reporter asks about our cooperation potential with Russia. I think on the part of Hainan, there are two areas for our cooperation. First, tourism. To take an ordinary year of 2019 as an example, Hainan in 2019 received 330,000 visitors from Russia. Among the inbound visitors in Hainan Province, 1 in 4 was Russian. So we need to further deepen our cooperation in tourism. I hope that once the epidemic is successfully controlled, we can restart the flight connecting Hainan and Russia to attract more Russians to tour in Hainan. And also, shopping in Hainan will offer our Russian friends new experience. The second area of our potential cooperation is to extend our cooperation in culture, sports, and science and technology. We know that Russia and France have colorful cultural traditions. The central government allows foreign investors to have performances in Hainan. We hope that those performances and the troops would contribute to win-win cooperation between the two nations. Next question, please. Thank you. From China News Service, trade and investment facilitation has been a priority of Hainan Free Trade Port. So since the establishment of the Free Trade Port, what has the Ministry of Commerce done in that regard, and what's the future plan? Thank you for your questions. As you know, trade, freedom, and facilitation is a universal feature of free trade ports in the world. It is also one priority of Hainan Provincial Free Trade Port. In 2020, the State Council and the central government promulgated the master plan of Hainan Provincial Free Trade Port. In this plan, in terms of foreign trade, the policies have been detailized, and it clearly stated that by 2025, we have to reach certain goals, and those goals must be hit according to different steps and stages. Since then, the Ministry of Commerce has been actively executing the policies and the plan. On our part, we have taken the following measures. First, we have drafted the Hainan Free Trade Port cross-border service trade negative listing. The draft has been finished, and it's still going through certain procedure. Second, we take the lead in drafting and submitting to the State Council the opinion on approving deepening the pilot project of service trade in Hainan Province. This document will allow 3-year pilot projects in Hainan Province to explore the system and mechanism of service trade reform in Hainan Province. Third, as has been mentioned, from May this year, we will hold the first China-Hainan International Products and Consumption Goods Expo. We are preparing this event right now. And with the other departments, we will also promote the policy revision concerning the offshore product consumption and the duty-free product monitoring mechanism. Just now, Madame Zhou has also introduced the details of those duty-free product policies. So I think to implement the master plan, especially considering the new development stage and the new development concepts, as well as the actual needs of Hainan Free Trade Port, Ministry of Commerce take the lead in working with 19 departments to further facilitate trade freedom and facilitation. For those measures, they are already written in the document. And not long ago, State Council approved those measures. In the next step, Ministry of Commerce will work together with the 19 departments to publish this document. It includes service trade and commodity trade freedom and facilitation. There are 28 such measures. And as to the details, you will read about it once the document is published. And for the 28 measures, I would love to give you a brief introduction today. First, those policies are designed to execute the free trade port development. For example, in terms of goods and commodity trade, we will relieve our control in the first line. In certain regions, for the crude oil, finished oil, edible sugar, we will relieve our control and requirement. And the license of import for those products will be cancelled. In service trade, we offer more market access. We ask foreign investors to hold the economic and technological exhibition as long as they do not use the name as China or Chinese. We will explore the cancelling of review and approval and registration and filing procedure. And I have to say that this document also serves the free trade port development. For example, for the boats, the bonded fueling, the rights will be relieved. The second-hand cars selling will enjoy larger space in Hainan Province. There will be also a pilot project for the registration and approval of the enterprises to support cultural exhibition business so that Hainan will be developed into a cultural export base. And Hainan will innovate service trade and international cooperation model. We would love to support free trade port in Hainan to enjoy larger trade volume, and we support market players to develop regional or international offshore international trade center and regional exhibition center. The third part of this document is about improving the supplementary policies in terms of trade. For example, risk control and fast response model, and the innovation of the supervision system. We want to improve the convenience of the legal procedure in terms of the revision and monitoring. For the trade frictions, we will establish an annual system to improve the monitoring. So there will be innovative trade monitoring policies. In the next step, with the other departments, we will step up our support so that free trade port trade facilitation and freedom will be executed to the full. Next question. Thank you. From Guangming Daily, to establish the mutually reinforcing double circulations, how will Hainan Free Trade Port position itself in this background? In the new development landscape, how will Hainan position ourselves and play our role? It's actually two questions. Let me first answer your first question. We position Hainan Free Trade Port to be a conjunction point of the double circulations. If domestic and international circulations are standing in the shape of 8 in the Chinese character, the Hainan will be at the top of both lines. Why are we the conjunction road for the double circulations? First, from the institutional design, after 2025, Hainan Province will complete its project, and naturally, it will become a conjunction road of domestic and international players. Second, concerning trade, we will offer trade and investment freedom and facilitation according to the requirements of the Free Trade Port Master Plan. Almost all of those policies were designed to facilitate trade and investment. So from the policy's perspective, Hainan is put at the conjunction road of domestic and international circulation. And third, concerning the location, Hainan connects the Chinese mainland and ASEAN. Those two are the most active markets in the world. So geographically speaking, Hainan is naturally at the intersection of domestic and international circulations. So if we combine the institutional, policy, and geographical strength together in the new development landscape, Hainan will play a bigger role. So this leads to the second question: how to play our role? We align ourselves with the most cutting-edge international trade rules, and we would love to give play to our trade facilitation edge. In the double circulations, we would love to attract population flow, capital flow, and the flow of goods. We hope such a gathering of those elements are not just happening physically. We hope to have chemistry in this process. So in the long run, it will happen. But if we have to focus on the nowness and the current context, COVID-19 is still plaguing the whole world, having a deep impact on the cross-border flow of people, products, and capital. So against such a backdrop, we have to take our time to lead consumption. In details, first, the epidemic caused a sudden halt of international tourism. The tourists who once crossed the borders to buy luxuries couldn't go abroad anymore. Relative central government departments, particularly the customs, taxation, and DRC, and Ministry of Commerce have re-amended the certain policies to adapt to the situation and attract the overseas consumption back to China market. We estimate that this year it will exceed 60 billion. So the first thing is about attracting back the overseas consumers. Second, because of the epidemic, the cross-border tourism is grounded to a halt, for example, including those patients who want to seek help overseas. Some of those patients have done the first stage of targeted therapy, but now with the epidemic, they couldn't make it for the second targeted procedure. And since now we have a healthcare pilot project in Hainan Province, the new drugs never seen in the Chinese mainland can be offered to those patients. And the third group of people to be attracted back is about the students seeking overseas education. The Chinese parents are worried about the epidemic. Could we enjoy high quality and top class education in front of our doorsteps? The overseas universities and schools with a lot of Chinese students enrolled are also wondering, what can we do in the future? Can we establish our subsidiaries in China so as to rise up to the challenge of the epidemic in the future? The International Education Island project in Hainan Province plays right to it. We connect the supply side and the demand side of education. We could attract the fine resources of education from overseas. Lingshui County, Li'an International Education Islands have some schools to open this year. Some schools are in the process of negotiation. So our job to trigger consumption in order to have a rebound of consumption is just taking the start. There is a number of 800,000 patients seeking help overseas and 800,000 students who want to study abroad. So those are large numbers. Although the proportion of Hainan's consumption in those sectors is not very high, but we have already attracted attention from the international community. So, for Hainan to play its role against the backdrop of double circulations, we have some examples to contribute to consumption, and there are more examples. Thank you. Next question. The economic island of Hong Kong. My question is also to Mr. Shen. I remember there was one report saying that in terms of building the international business environment, Hainan doesn't have a lot of professional organs, so not appealing to the foreign investors. What are the changes right now? How to build a good and favorable business environment? I would also love to give the question to our Governor Fang Fei. Thank you for your attention to the business environment in Hainan Province. The business environment, policy environment, and ecology environment should be the core competitive edges of Hainan Province. We are striving to have a synergy between the three environments so that we can optimize the development environment in Hainan. What are the features of business environment in Hainan, and what will be our way forward? According to President Xi Jinping, he urges Hainan to accelerate the establishment of a law-based, facilitated, and international business environment and an open, unified, and efficient market environment. I would love to repeat: a law-based, international, and facilitated business environment. Those three will be our goals of business environment. In the master plan, we have clarified our stage-by-stage goals. By 2025, the business environment in general will reach the domestic class level. By 2035, business environment will be further improved. So we set two goals for two stages. It is fair to say that over the past years, Hainan has done a lot to create a favorable business environment. We even have created some brands in China. We put emphasis on systematic and integrated innovation. For example, we took the lead in the reform of the land. There will be a unified management of the land usage. The report and the approval process will be streamlined. And we can guarantee the land demand of certain projects will be met. For example, in the parks, we have streamlined and simplified the approval. The plan can take the place of a project approval. The regional approval can also take the place of one single project approval. The approval time has been reduced by over 80%. Another example is the setting up of one window for foreign trade. The total customs clearance time period has been cut by half compared to 3 years ago. Internet Plus offers us some support in terms of appointment online. Those are innovative model of customs clearance. As Cong Liang mentions, we have one stamp to approve the procedures. Enterprises and individuals do not have to run to different departments to handle the procedure. Instead, they have to go to just one window. So we have basically generated great achievements. Just now, our party secretary shared some examples about increasing the number of market players and foreign investors. We have a lot of pilot projects. From those examples, it is obvious that the enterprises are thinking high of our business environment improvement. Objectively, if we compare with the requirements stated in the master plan and compare with the more advanced provinces and municipalities in China, we still have a long way to go. So we are taking more efforts to improve our business environment. And there will be three measures. First, to lead the reform of business environment. For example, governance. We will allow the whole province to handle the procedure in just one errand. And second, quantifying the targets. We will align with the international example and the standards of the other provinces to detailize our plan per year. Third, the market players will have the say. And the service targets of the enterprises will also offer feedback about the environment. So it is totally up to the market players. I have to emphasize about the requirements in the master plan. The law-based business environment is the best one. It's most stable and predictable. Party Secretary has introduced the law of Hainan Provincial Free Trade Port, which will be implemented this year, upon which we will speed up the legislation of fair competition and annulment of business affairs. In the meantime, we will also promote the development of a law-based government. So with the rule of law, we will standardize the boundaries of government and the market to protect legitimate rights of investors. I also want to respond to the hot topic of sea urchin in Hainan Province. Hainan Provincial People's Government and Party Secretary pays high attention to any issue concerning tourism. In matters of supervision, complaint, and dedicated actions of management, we have done a lot to standardize and to regulate the tourism industry. We will certainly look deep into the incident of the sea urchin and conduct our governance according to law. Next question. From Hongxin News. Since July 2020, the offshore duty-free new policy in Hainan Province has attracted wide attention. The public has rising enthusiasm of shopping in Hainan, and we have seen two delivery methods. And in the shopping experience, it offers convenience to the tourists, but it adds more burden to the customs office. So what are the concerns and measures in terms of avoiding the illegal buying on somebody else's behalf? The Customs Office is executing General Secretary Xi Jinping's instructions and spirit. We are actively playing our role to strengthen our supervision and optimize our services. We would love to fully support the development of free trade port in Hainan. The offshore shopping policy is one of the key outcomes of the free trade port. Since July 1st, 2020, those offshore tourists' consumption per year has increased from 30,000 to 100,000. The duty-free products stand in 45 different categories from 38 previously. So to smoothly execute the new policies, the Customs Office is actively participating in the execution. According to the new varieties and new quota, we have readapted our supervision. We are also upgrading our information system to guarantee the successful execution of the new policy. This new policy greatly triggered the development of international consumption center and also the foreign trade development. According to our data, since July the 1st, 2020 till April the 6th, 2021, we have monitored a total sum of 34.7 billion RMB yuan and 4.9 million tourists. That's a year-on-year increase of 244% and 101%. Such a dividend from policies play a key role as the engine since February 2021 to further facilitate shopping. The offshore new policy under the current framework add another policy, that is the first delivery to the tourists. The Customs Office act swiftly. On April the 3rd, we also published our regulation on getting the products when they come back to Hainan in their return with specified requirements. And also, we are doing our interpretation and publication of the new policies so that the public will learn more. Until April the 4th, we have helped 100,000 tourists to deliver their products through the Green Channel, with a total sum of 6.2 million RMB yuan and 2,200 products. As we are innovating our supervision model, for those illegal smuggling behaviors, taking advantage of our new policy, we will crack heavily down upon them. We have already handled several big cases, including the gangs. We guarantee the steady progress of offshore shopping and the legitimate rights of the majority of consumers. The Customs Office, in the recent 2 years, has conducted 11 rounds of cracking down upon the illegal smuggling behaviors in Hainan Province. 66 gangs have been held in custody with a total sum of 200 million RMB yuan involved. Since July, for 8,000 smugglers, we have limited their offshore shopping behaviors in the next 3 years. And also, we give full play to our synergy with the other departments. Together with Haikou Customs Office, we also had a unified action on the illegal smuggling in Haikou. Now we have already approved 5 cases to be heard. So we will only offer the green channel as long as we are able to control the illegal behaviors. We have a precise crackdown on different sorts of smuggling and illegal behaviors to guarantee that the decisions of the central government will be executed to the point and guarantee the healthy development of free trade port in Hainan. The cover news. Ministry of Finance has also introduced different policies. What are the outcomes as to the imported goods tariff exemption? Do you have any further plan? I have already introduced that for this moment there are 12 taxation and financial policies with 9 of them in place. As to the outcomes and effects of the 9 policies, for those policies that have been executed for a longer time, we have seen tangible results. But for some others, since they are newly introduced, the policy effects are still being released. To give you some example, offshore duty-free. Since July the 1st last year till the end of March, the duty-free sales exceeded 30 billion RMB, doubling the number the previous year. And I also heard from the General Administration of Customs that they have supervised 34 billion RMB in that time range. And also as to the number of consumers, it increased by 80% year-on-year. Last June, also in this place, I briefed our reporters about the offshore duty-free policies, and some reporters said that I was speaking for the consumption of Hainan Province, but now it seems like they don't need me to be the spokesperson anymore for their consumption. According to Party Secretary Xiaoming, they estimate that this year the duty-free products will be sold at about 60 billion. So we need no word to advertise the products and consumption in Hainan. Since July, the vitality of the tourism and consumption markets have been rebounding. Since January the 1st, 2020, the corporate and individual income taxation preferential treatment policies also effectively reduced the taxation burden on corporates and increase their appeal to the high-caliber talents. That's why there are a rising number of market players in Hainan. Talents are rushing to Hainan. Another outcome is about the initial outcome of certain policies. For example, the raw materials, transportation vehicles, and self-used production equipment. Zero tariff for those three categories has been gradually introduced since November last year, and since then, the total goods enjoying the preferential treatment approach the value of 900 million. They have reduced their taxation burden. I believe with the policies gradually implemented, more market players will benefit from them, and you will see more outcomes. In general, those taxation policies have already had the initial outcomes and achievements, boosting confidence of people by attracting more population flow, capital flow, and flow of goods, laying a solid foundation for the development of free trade port in Hainan. Our reporter also asked about our future plan of scaling up the duty-free product. We will, for example, like I said, there are 12 policies, among which 9 are implemented. So, for the first step, we will speed up the implementation of the remaining 3 policies. The first one is the consumption of locals. They will enjoy zero tariff. Second, from May the 7th to 10th, the First China International Consumption Goods Expo will offer zero tariff to the imported products. Third, for the flights inbound and outbound, we will also offer preferential treatment. For the 9 policies already executed, we will closely follow the effects to have more evaluation of the performance, and we will dynamically readjust the policies. For the zero tariff policy, particularly the imported goods, with a listing management, we will continue to narrow down the list so that the free trade port development will continuously have new achievements. Next question. Hainan Broadcasting TV. Since the introduction of the Master Plan, PBOC and SAFE have done something in terms of the facilitation. What have you done? In the Master Plan, there is a special design concerning the currency flow. It clarifies that the market entities will be supported, particularly about the trade and investment. The capital will be released so that the capital could freely flow across the borders. PBOC and SAFE have also respectively introduced policies to support free trade port development with the free flow of capital. First, the account system development. We support the free trade account development. That is the so-called FT account. We encourage enterprises to establish their own FT accounts for cross-border financing. The capital conversion could happen on the offshore market. There is also a unified banking account settlement system. Last year, Hainan was included into the pilot project. It's about to be executed. Second, the RMB settlement will be facilitated. We supported Hainan provincial banks to allow the well-performing enterprises to handle the cross-border goods and service trade settlement through RMB. For the RMB-denominated revenues, we also offer a lot of convenience in their usage within the borders. Last year, together with the other departments, we also published an order including 15 contents so as to optimize the policies concerning offshore RMB businesses. To wrap it up, on the basis of the demand of the real economy, we would love to facilitate the usage of RMB and to streamline the settlement process of RMB and facilitate the offshore RMB investment and financing management and the payment receiving of individuals. Last year, the RMB scale in our businesses account for 50% of the total in Hainan Province. And thirdly, in response to the market demand, the new type of cross-border investment management is reformed. Before the access, the national treatment added by the negative listing will be the routine management method. In the foreign currency investment, it can directly be handled in the banks. For the investment, aside from the negative listing, we have no restrictions. So in investment, we basically can convert the currencies. Last December, SAFE approved the enterprises to have a QDLP pilot with $5 billion of investment in that pilot project. Now the Hainan office of SAFE has already made the management method of that pilot project. That's the third aspect. Fourth, optimizing cross-border forex management, mainly to meet the financing demand of Hainan Province and support the featured industries to develop in Hainan. There will also be some support in terms of getting listed. Last September, Hainan took the lead in reforming the overseas listing of those enterprises registered in Hainan. So those enterprises could enjoy the green channel in registration in the banks. The whole procedure has been streamlined, and SAFE has been actively implementing the policies. Free Trade Port will become the pioneer of reform. Now, with the pilot projects in place, they are timely executed in terms of policy support. For example, reducing the time of handling the procedure and reducing the cost. Those policies have met the demand of the market players in Hainan. Recently, PBOC and SAFE, together with the insurance and banking regulatory commissions, they have published a document on deepening reform of Hainan Free Trade Port. In this opinion, those departments will have some principles in supporting the reform in Hainan with 6 measures. Those measures mainly include the convertible capability of RMB to facilitate the cross-border investment and financing, and also it includes improving the financial market system and increasing the openness of the financial sector in Hainan, and innovating financial services and financial products, and elevating the level of financial services, and improving financial supervision to avert financial risks. The targets of those measures are to drive the free trade port development with a financial framework in place. In the next step, PBOC and SAFE will continue adhere to the master plan. By 2025, according to different steps, we will adhere to the principle of financial services serving the real economy. Once it's within our risk control scope, we will continue to step up our support of Hainan Province to orderly facilitate the free flow of foreign trade in Hainan Province. In Yangpu, we have already implemented the higher level of openness pilot to innovate the system of cross-border financing and trade to improve the efficiency of market resource distribution. Thank you. In the interest of time, this is the end of today's presser. I would love to thank all our leaders and all the media friends.